Hello, everyone. It's time for your popcorn hour. Today, lobster is the crown jewel of seafood. It's elegant, expensive, and reserved for special occasions. But what if I told you that just a couple of centuries ago, lobster was considered trash food? That it was fed to prisoners, servants, and even used as fertilizer? This is the incredible journey of the lobster. How it crawled its way up from the bottom of the food chain to the top of the gourmet world. Buckle up, this one's deliciously ironic. Before it became a delicacy, before it graced white tablecloth dinners with drawn butter and lemon wedges, lobster was something people turned their noses up at. In colonial America, especially in New England, lobster was so unwanted that it was considered a nuisance. You see, lobsters weren't harvested back then. They were collected. After storms, hundreds, sometimes thousands, of lobsters would wash up along the shoreline, often stacked in grotesque piles several feet high. The beaches of Massachusetts and Maine would literally crawl with them. Imagine walking on a beach where the sand is littered with snapping claws and wriggling antennae. The smell? Not pleasant. The vibe? More horror movie than seafood paradise. Early settlers didn't fish for lobster, they shoveled them. Using rakes and pitchforks, they'd clear the beaches of what they saw as disgusting sea bugs. And that's exactly how they saw them, like giant cockroaches. In fact, even their scientific classification reflects this. Lobsters are part of the arthropod family, the same as spiders, scorpions, and insects. Because they were so easy to gather, they were considered the lowest form of food. There was no prestige, no ceremony. No one wanted to admit they ate them. Lobster wasn't just poor man's food, and it was subhuman food. Native Americans had a more practical view. They used lobsters as bait, fertilizer, and occasionally food. But for European settlers, it was an embarrassment. Farmers used lobsters as crop fertilizer. Fishermen used them as bait to catch cod and haddock. Fish considered far more respectable. In many towns, lobster was fed to pigs and chickens before being served to humans. That's how little it was valued. If you were sentenced to prison in the 18th or 19th century New England, you could expect a cold cell, harsh labor, and a whole lot of lobster. Not the butter-drenched lobster you're imagining. This was overcooked, rubbery, unseasoned, dumped into tin trays like slop, day after day. In Massachusetts and Maine, where lobsters were literally crawling out of the ocean, prisons had access to an almost endless supply. And because it was considered worthless, cheaper than bread or beans, it became the go-to option for feeding inmates. Some inmates began staging hunger protests. In one incident from 1851, a group of prisoners in Boston threatened to riot unless they were given anything else. It wasn't just inmates. Servants, indentured workers, even orphans in poorhouses were subjected to lobster monotony. Hatred for lobster became so normalized that some legal documents from the 1700s limited how often it could be served. In many Western societies, sea creatures were seen as inferior to land animals. Shellfish were slimy, armored, hard to kill, hard to cook, and they lived in the deep, mysterious ocean. People feared them, distrusted them, grouped them with bugs and snakes. Ironically, today eating lobster daily makes you look rich. But back then, it made you look punished. So how did it turn around? How did lobster claw its way up the social ladder? It started with trains. So how does a creature people once hid from dinner guests become a five-star delicacy? The answer starts with a very American phenomenon: the expansion of the railroads. In the mid-1800s, lobster's image began to change. Not on the coast, but inland. Industrial canning allowed lobster meat to be preserved and shipped. People in Ohio, Illinois, even Kansas, who had never seen a live lobster, were now tasting it. And they liked it. Inland consumers didn't carry the coastal stigma. To them, lobster wasn't prison food. It was exotic. Canned lobster became popular in cities like Chicago and St. Louis. Train companies started offering fresh lobster in luxury dining cars. It impressed passengers, especially those who had never tried it. Fancy hotels and restaurants took notice. Chefs in Boston and New York created new lobster dishes. Baked lobster, lobster Newburg, lobster thermidor. They added butter, cream, wine, herbs. They made lobster taste like money. Once the wealthy developed a taste for it, the rest of society followed. Because when the rich eat something, it becomes desirable, no matter what it used to be. By the early 20th century, lobster had fully transformed from prison food to posh plate. It no longer symbolized desperation, it symbolized decadence. During the roaring 1920s, lobster was a highlight of jazz-era menus in New York and Chicago. Restaurants began showcasing tanks filled with live lobsters, letting diners pick the exact one they wanted. What was once a shameful secret became a public display of wealth. During the World War II, lobster's popularity saw a strange boost. Unlike beef and pork, lobster wasn't rationed. That meant it became more available in restaurants, and more desirable as a rare treat for civilians. After the war, the booming American economy and rising middle class embraced lobster as a celebratory food. A sign that you'd made it. Magazines ran glamorous spreads of lobster dinners. Hollywood stars were photographed eating it. Cookbooks featured lobster as the crown jewel of any special meal. Lobster prices skyrocketed. No longer shoveled from the beach, lobster was trapped, shipped, and stored under strict conditions. The harder it was to get, the more valuable it became. By the 1980s, lobster had completed its journey, from the poorhouse to the penthouse. Today, it remains a symbol of luxury. Cruise ships serve it, weddings feature it, and some restaurants even market $100 lobster rolls. Not bad for something once called the cockroach of the sea. So the next time you dip that succulent tail into a cup of melted butter, just remember, you're eating the food of prisoners, servants, and pigs, turned into a delicacy by time, marketing, and a change in public taste. Aside from its rich history, there's something deeper that makes lobster so desirable, and it's not just butter, it's biology. Lobsters have a unique texture and flavor profile. When cooked, their protein structure tightens just right, giving that perfect chew, and their natural sweetness balances beautifully with the savory punch of melted butter or creamy sauces. They're also full of umami, the fifth taste that triggers pleasure receptors in the brain. Lobster's high glutamate content stimulates the same taste sensations you get from perfectly cooked meat or aged cheese. And then there's scarcity. Unlike cows or chickens, lobsters can't be easily farmed at scale. Most lobsters are still wild-caught. That makes them unpredictable, seasonal, and pricey. Add in the ritual, the cracking of the claws, the steaming, the dipping. It's not just a meal, it's an experience. Psychologically, the more effort we put into eating something, the more we tend to value it. That's called effort justification, and lobster nails it. Today, lobster isn't just food, it's pop culture. It's memes, tattoos, even fashion. TV shows like Friends made lobster a symbol of romance. Remember the line, "He's her lobster"? It cemented the idea that lobster is rare, special, meant to last. In Maine, lobster is a state icon. Lobster festivals attract tens of thousands of people. Lobster rolls are served at weddings. There are lobster-shaped hats, keychains, and even sneakers. In fine dining, chefs now experiment with lobster infusion dishes. Lobster tacos, lobster ramen, lobster ice cream. Yes, that's real. Social media turned lobster into a luxury flex. TikToks of lobster boils. Instagram reels of giant claws. YouTube mukbangs of people devouring whole lobsters. It's theater. But it also sparked a debate. Should lobster be this expensive? Should luxury food be more sustainable, more accessible? Some startups are even working on lab-grown lobster. Imagine that, a world where everyone can afford it. We've come full circle. From poor man's protein to elite status symbol, to possibly one day a food for all. Enjoyed this journey through lobster history? Give us a thumbs up. It really helps us reach more curious minds like yours. What's the weirdest luxury food you've ever tried? Drop your answer in the comments. We might feature it in our next episode. Subscribe for more surprising stories and strange facts from around the world. We post new deep dives every week. You won't want to miss them. Share this video with a foodie friend. Let's see if they knew lobster used to be fed to prisoners.